Hello and welcome to another video from Sustenance and Cover, the only channel you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. And today's little video is going to be about what is a forest and what is not a forest. A lot of times people will say, it must be wonderful to live in the forest after they see one of my videos. And I always have to tell them this is not a forest. This is a lawn that has not been maintained in 50 years. But anyhow, just so that we can all be on the same page, we'll use this as an example right here. This is a live oak, and it's said to be the most majestic tree of the Gulf Coastal Plains. Of course, they say that it's the most majestic tree because it's so resilient, which is, that's bull, that's propaganda. I'll explain that later. But anyhow, just so you can see this little vine right here growing on this tree, and next to it is some moss. And then over here, here's another vine. That's poison ivy. And if you come around here, well, there's a lichen with some moss attached to it. And my all-time favorite is fern. And all these things exist all the way up. There's more ferns, more moss, more lichens, more vines. All these things exist on this here live oak, which is about 50 years old. Now, the reason I say it's about 50 years old is because I actually watched my daddy plant some trees when I was little. And they're about this size right now. There's living things attached on this tree all the way from above the canopy to actually below the ground. And in fact, I left this one out. This is alive too. It's growing all the time. It's like a mattress. And they say that when Columbus got here, that you could actually run across North America barefoot. That's just like running on a mattress. You wouldn't even get a sticker in your foot. Now over here is an example of a new tree, a young tree. If you cut this tree down, you're killing it. That's a dead tree. If you're cutting this tree down, you're killing the tree along with about a dozen different species that are attached to that tree and totally dependent for their life on that tree. Now I'll show you something else. Come around here about 100 feet away from here is another live oak about 300 years old. So it's 250 years older and subsequently has probably about twice as many living things attached to it. So if you cut that down, you'd have about 24 things, different species dying because of that. We'll get over here closer and I'll show you something else. I said earlier that the propaganda is that live oaks are the most majestic oak down here because they're so resilient. I'm going to show you the real reason. Forest people, basically the chainsaw troops of the empire, will come through every so often and clear cut a forest. And you see that up there? That's that oak. A lot of wood there, but it's all crooked. A man with a chainsaw that's chasing dollar bills will walk right past that tree because even though you could get something out of it, they're so labor intensive that you wouldn't get any profit out of it. And that's all they care about. When they see a forest, they see animals, they see plants, they see dollar bills. Now here's the real reason, the actual detailed reason of why I'm making this video. This is going to be a standard response video to anybody who makes a comment on my page that there are more trees in North America today than there were when Columbus got here. I've actually gotten that comment. And I wouldn't address it except I've gotten it twice. And both of the people that made the comment looked like they were college educated from looking at their page. And so I had to think, it had to be some kind of propaganda because people from college always know propaganda. They don't know how to cook or clean for themselves, but they know propaganda. Now I'm going to ask you, see this tangled mess here? That's what happens when a tree like this falls down, or like that. After the hurricane, all these trees went down, sunlight came down on the ground, and every viable acorn and seed on the ground sprouted. Almost all of this mess is live oaks. Now I'm going to ask you, do you think more of these would fit on an acre than that? And like I said, that's only a 300-year-old tree. Live oaks can live to be 1,000 years old, and a 1,000-year-old one would probably take up a whole acre. You could probably put 2,500 of these on an acre, so honestly, there probably are more trees in North America than there were when Christopher Columbus came here. When Christopher Columbus landed, 10% of North America was desert. Now we're at 99%. When I say desert, I mean stripped off dead pieces of land like this. Probably a lot of these trees covering North America now. But if you notice, there's nothing else on this tree. It's just a tree. No moss, no ferns, nothing. Now, the 1,000 years, you've heard me say that a couple of times. The reason that's important is because it takes 1,000 years, according to scientists, and they're not exactly right, but according to scientists, it takes 1,000 years for a clear-cut forest to recover. And you can check this for yourself. Just go to Wikipedia and type in rainforest. What it actually says is that scientists say it takes between 500 and 1,500 years. So they don't all agree. But if you just average out exactly what they say, you will come to a precise figure of 1,000 years. And that's just an average, but it makes sense. And I'll explain that in a minute as well. Now, the Department of Interior scientists don't agree with that, but I figured out the reason. They say that it only takes 250 years for a forest to recover. Real scientists say it takes 1,000 years because they have different criteria. State-sponsored Department of Interior scientists are only interested in financial profit. And 250 years is about how long it takes for the trees to get to the maximum size where they can still be easily harvested and yet still have the maximum amount of wood. Real scientists base their figures on how long does it take for every living thing to come back. Alright, I just put that in a tripod so you can see me. Don't need to be walking around talking. But in any case, we're going to get to the spiritual part of this now. Knowing that rainforests take 1,000 years to recover, I'm going to explain two words from the Bible that have always intrigued me. And those words are desert and rainforest. I already know that you're going to tell me the word rainforest is not in the Bible, but it is. Of course, there are hundreds of Bible translations, maybe thousands of them. And they're not all the same. They all have little bitty differences in opinion about different words because, nothing translates perfectly from one language to another. But there's two words in Hebrew, and those words are Pardes and Midbar. Pardes is translated often as garden, because everybody knows that Adam and Eve came to life in the Garden of Eden. And that word, the original word, was Pardes. And that word isn't really used to describe anything else other than the Garden of Eden. Not really garden. In fact, the word Pardes is where we get our word paradise. So Paradise of Eden might be better. But once again, we're going to discuss what scientists say. Scientists do not know where the Garden of Eden was, but they know the general area where the Garden of Eden was. And every inch of that area, the whole Middle East, was a rainforest 6,000 years ago. And the Bible says that's when the Garden of Eden existed, 6,000 years ago. So it's only logical that if all we dig up there is remnants of a rainforest, then that must be what Adam and Eve lived in, the rainforest of Eden. Another word is Midbar, which is translated sometimes as desert, sometimes as lonely place. It can be used to describe a city. It can be used to describe the woods, like this right here. It can be used, it's even used one time in the Bible to describe a cistern. The reason that translators aren't able to come up with one word to explain what it is because they don't think things through like me. Midbar is simply Pardes that has been destroyed. Once Pardes, or the rainforest, is destroyed, that area becomes Midbar. So it's all right to call it the desert or call it the woods, or some Bibles call it the wilderness. But I think a better translation is simply not a rainforest. Now I'm going to ask you a question, and you got to think this one through just for a minute. And you already know where I'm headed with this, so hopefully I won't even have to tell you. Why do you think in the book of Revelation it says that Jesus Christ is going to rule for 1,000 years. I mean, he's Jesus Christ, Son of God, gave his life for mankind. Wouldn't it be better if he ruled for a million years or 1,000,000,000 years or forever? Because of this one thing. Remember what we said. It takes 1,000 years for a forest to recover. Jesus is only going to rule for as long as it takes for him to restore the earth to a rainforest. Once that's done, he'll hand the kingdom over to his Father, and mankind will once again get an opportunity to live in Paradise, Garden of Eden, worldwide Garden of Eden. Now, there's a lot of people that believe that all the species that have gone extinct on this planet did so because of evolution. Species are constantly dying off. Species are constantly evolving to life. But the reality is, real scientists believe and can prove to the most part that over 1,000,000 species of life on this planet have been destroyed by human interaction. Not by evolution, by human interaction, direct action by human beings. Scientists have as of yet never proven that even one species has come into existence in this same time period. I mean, every now and then somebody will discover some kind of new bird, but right after they discover the bird, they find fossils of the bird. So it ain't like that bird came into existence. It's always been here. We just finding it. But we know for a fact that millions, or at least 1,000,000 species, have gone extinct. The state, the empire, the Anglo-American world empire, the one single entity that is responsible for the vast majority of those extinctions, says that only about 750 or so species have gone extinct. The reason they say this is because there are 750 species that are extinct, which we have mounted examples of. In other words, the ivory-billed woodpecker. They can't deny that that went extinct. We've got motion pictures of it, and there's probably about a dozen or so ivory-billed woodpeckers that are stuffed and sitting in museums. So I think the 1,000,000 is a more accurate figure. Now, the fact is, none of this can ever become Paradise by evolution. Genetic engineering is not going to bring it back to Paradise. And I don't know how many species originally lived in this particular ecosystem. If it was 10,000, say we get 9,999 of those species back, this is still not Paradise, the original rainforest that God intended. The only way those species can ever come back is when the Creator's creative week starts over again. That's right. People will argue over and over that the creative week was made up of 24-hour days. It ain't nothing like that. The only reason he described it as a week is because it starts over. Got 6 days to work, took a day of rest, and we are still in that day of rest, and it's going to all start over again soon. It's the only way that the earth can be restored, because all those 1,000,000 species have to come back. The Creator may even make new species. But in any case, if you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.